We have $76,900 in there. Well, but sorry, we also have. Okay. Can't spend that whole 76,000 on that.
You should have told me we had about $10.
I already shocked him once today, so. Open. Transparency, you know. It is 9 o'clock.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9 a.m. Tuesday, February 5th. It is time for our weekly Cottington County Board of Commissioners weekly meeting. We'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Cindy, you want to lead us this week?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cindy. If you have a cell phone, please silence it or turn it off. And if you do get a call that you need to take, please step out into the rotunda area so you don't disrupt the meeting. This meeting is being streamed live, so if you address the board, just want to give you a heads up. Is there anyone in the audience that has something that they would like to address the board with? If so, we'll make certain that we give you some time at the end of the meeting during the other portion. If there's no one that has anything that's not on the agenda, apparently not. So how about the board members? Is there any items on the agenda that would appear to be a conflict of interest for you?
No.
Seeing none,
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
we have a motion by Hatton to approve the
Second.
agenda. We have a second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes of
Move
the
to approve as emailed.
motion by Hatton to approve the minutes of the January 29th meeting. Second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, at this time, number 5 is review of and discussion on proposal from Jim Zek. I don't know how you say, is it Zek or Zach?
Zach.
Zek. I've always called it Zek or Zach, whatever, or not Zerk. I haven't called it that. So, but come up forward here for access to registered deeds records for the title company. Good morning. Please introduce yourself so you get your name correct for the press.
Jim Zek.
Morning.
I guess I didn't make a copy. Did you guys all get a copy of the proposal I had on
Yeah.
there? It's pretty simple. We just want access to the records up at the courthouse. And we figured just keep it simple. We were offering the sum of $50,000 to be able to make copies, digital copies of all records, put a scanner in the courthouse to figure out cover utilities. And then once we were done, to keep going with it, doing a title company, we offer $225 a month as an ongoing fee as long as we're open for business to be able to have access to update our records. So kind of kept it simple. I know you've heard a proposal here before, so just kind of wanted to get ours in on the books. So I guess there's any questions that you have.
I guess the question that I would have is, for as long as I've been on this board, we've always had to use the same title company, right, Ann, for years and years. Why all of a sudden now we have two proposals? What's the difference? Is it because of the technology?
Is there advice? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're bringing to the table. The technology we're using, it's actually been around for not even 2 years. It's very user-friendly, interactive. Lenders can access it, it just streamlines the process, less errors, and like I said, it's just kind of time for it. The generation's here to have that, so we definitely feel there's a demand for it. So,
Okay, good. Any other questions?
So I guess just to understand what's going on are a lot of title companies going around to a lot of courthouses asking to digitize records or?
just new ones, you have to create a plant, to
Okay.
be able to do a title
I see,
company.
okay.
You have to digitize it, and you got to
Okay.
upload it into your system for the state.
Okay.
Hey, any other questions?
So what would happen next with this one or the other one? Do we need to?
I think what we will do at this point in time is accept take your information and at a meeting, we could do this next week. We could discuss the proposals that we have in front of us. At that time, I'd like to get Ann involved in that discussion. Next week?
Mr.
You're not
Chair.
going to be around next week, huh?
No.
We won't either. Yeah, we will be.
It may take some, there's a lot of things to decide here. We need to get resolutions. We need to figure out what we're going to charge for the copies. We need to figure out what the space is. Do we have room for two? So we have a lot of issues that we really need to dive into and get this. Also licensing, do they have their license in order to access the records? So,
Yeah, these are all things that we'll have to consider and give us a couple of weeks to discuss it. And so we'll just consider your proposal as information at this point in time, okay?
we are working on it though.
No problem. If you need anything else, feel free to call
Sure.
me if you want to.
We know where you're at.
I know I'm a little broad on it, but.
Yeah.
Jim, do you represent a company or a business, or I don't see that on the sheet here. Am
yeah.
I missing it?
It was, honestly, that we're kind of in transition because we have the same name as the party that you did last week.
Okay,
So we're just
Okay.
trying to get everything figured out, so I don't have an official name to
Okay.
put on there. But my two partners here are actually the Krzeski's, Jenny and Jason Krzeski, are
Okay.
in on business with me on it, so.
Okay.
Excuse
There
me,
is
Jim.
one other, there is one other item in here, requesting solo access prior to the other party who's applied. That's something you're going to have to address as part of his proposal.
We just know that space is limited, and I did reach out and found a new scanner. It's going to increase our cost by like $10,000 to use a scanner that will actually digitize, so Ann would be able to use it for her system too, make sure the copies are legible, so.
And that's the next thing, to import it into our system. We need to have it a certain format, so those are things that we need to also have discussions with to see if
And
that's.
we will work on, like I said, we change our equipment up to accommodate you. Have already taken steps.
Sounds like we got quite a few I's to dot and T's to cross before we make a
That one
decision.
takes a while.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's go on to monthly reports. We have the pleasure of having two nurses with us this morning for the Community Health Office. Come on up forward. And we have a new employee, Cody. Would you grab a chair and get the mic down for you? You have to push that button.
It's already on.
It's on,
Both
it's
of
on
them.
already, all right.
All right, well, good morning. I can start by introducing us. So, yeah, we're from the Community Health Office, and I know you've met with me a couple times already. My name is Melissa, but yeah, we were excited to introduce Cody, our newest addition to the office, so I'll let her say a few words.
I am Cody Martin. I have been with Community Health now since middle of December. Prior to this, I came from Prairie Lakes, and I worked there for just about 3.5 years, and prior to that, I was in Aberdeen at Sanford. So I'm excited to be here and continue learning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you moved to this balmy climate from Aberdeen.
I'm from Webster, so it's not too far.
All right, go ahead and proceed with your report.
All right, yeah, so with Cody coming to our office, we are fully staffed. So she is going through the orientation process now. For the time being, for the next few months, we do still have nurses coming from neighboring offices to help us and make sure that we are providing for all of our clients. But then once Cody's orientation is complete, it'll be us two. We'll be the ones in our office every day. So you know that. Otherwise, as far as the report that we submitted, this is the quarter 4 report. So it is our statistics and summaries from October, November, and December of 2017. So I won't go over all of it because, again, I know you have it in front of you, but I do have a couple things that we'll touch on. But before I do you all have any questions for us on the report or things we want to make sure that we talk about?
Anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Go ahead.
Okay, so looking at the chart at the top with our statistics, a couple things I just wanted to highlight in our Q4 totals were the number of prenatal education visits that we did is 93. That is monthly services that we provide to all of the pregnant women that we serve in our office. And the reason that I want to highlight this is because we hear more and more in our line of work about the importance of addressing maternal mortality. As we've talked about before, we talk about infant mortality and making sure babies have safe places to sleep and that kind of thing. But more and more, we're hearing more and more about maternal mortality, meaning the importance of early prenatal care, adequate prenatal care, and access to resources that help women have a healthy pregnancy and postpartum period, of course for their infants, but also for themselves. So that's why I wanted to point that one out. And then WIC certifications completed. I bring that one up because Commissioner Johnson, I know you mentioned that when we first arrived today. And so in October, November, and December in total, we completed 188 WIC certifications. And the last thing I'll say there is I think moving forward, what we will do for you is we'll give you a year-end review that gives you our totals from all 4 quarters. I didn't do that this time because this is only the second time that I've submitted a report to you, but just know that that's something that you'll see from us moving forward.
The question, I think I read in your report somewhere, the immunization, because of the one that Jim has, I don't know, I consider him in charge of it. POD, yeah. This is Jim's immunization program, whatever it is. At the POD, that has made a big difference, hasn't it? Haven't some of yours gone to the POD rather than, or is there any correlation there?
There is. We do see a decrease in the traffic into our offices when there is a POD in the community. I see that as a good thing because I think it means that the POD and bringing together all the community partners is bringing that service into the local community and making it more accessible. But yes, you're right. We do see less foot traffic for flu vaccines in our offices when we do have PODs in the
For
community.
Jim's sake, it's a good program, right?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
there we go.
Putting it
Well,
out
it
there.
looks like we
Good
had
program.
1,200 individuals that were immunized during that pod. Is that correct? Sure.
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
on October 2nd.
Yes, yep, I
That's
do have that there.
Pretty high number. That's
Yeah.
good.
And yeah, speaking of POD, and maybe Jim has shared this too, but we will be doing or participating in what's called a tabletop exercise for this fall. So what that means is rather than doing a full-scale event like we did this fall, it's kind of bring everybody around the table and talk details. It's a really good opportunity for any new partners who are going to be in POD to understand kind of the roles and responsibilities and the approaches and all of the details that go into making a full-scale effort successful. So this area has done a full-scale POD for several years in a row, and the decision was made that it was just time to kind of come back to the table and kind of regroup. We have a lot of new faces and things like that. So that is the plan as I understand it for this fall.
Okay.
Hope I'm not misspeaking. Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up, so we're good. The other thing that I'll say on immunizations is, I was telling Cody, this is always an opportunity that I take to put in a plug for flu vaccines. So January and February are historically the peak of flu season, meaning that we see an increase in cases of influenza in the months that we are in right now. So it is not too late to get a flu vaccine. We still highly recommend it, and we still have them available. So.
Good.
Do you, excuse me, do you also give like the measles vaccine? You know, it's in the news right now that there's a lot of unvaccinated kids running around.
Yes.
So that is one thing they can get from you also.
We do. We provide all childhood immunizations.
Immunizations, okay.
So in measles as well as many others. And we immunize any child that needs it. We do have the ability to bill insurance. So if somebody wants to come and receive immunizations in our office and have that processed through
Okay.
insurance, we do have that capability. But we do also have vaccines through what's called the VFC program, or Vaccines for Children program. And that program is intended to provide vaccines for children of families who may not otherwise be able to afford vaccines. And the purpose of that program is to be sure that finances are not a barrier to getting
That's great.
appropriately immunized.
Thank you.
So yes, you can send anybody to us and we will take care of them.
The other one is whooping cough, I think that's starting to come back, that
And we do
We need
have
to be
that
aware
one
of
also.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Good. Well, it sounds like if you're sick, that's the place to go. Any more questions for either of these young ladies? Anything else? Welcome aboard, Cody.
Thank you.
We'll be looking forward to working with you in the future for a long
You guys
time.
as well.
How's the office working out over there?
Oh, we really like it.
Good.
Do ya?
Yeah, it's
Good.
got a good flow to it, and we really like all the windows. And we've had a lot of compliments from clients. I think they really enjoy the space and the parking and
Good.
things
Good.
like that. So
privacy is a better
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
the last thing I need to make sure that I share with you is we recently did receive some policy changes in terms of the frequency of attending commissioners' meetings. As you know, we have been coming quarterly. We did receive some new guidance on attending meetings every 6 months. So our plan moving forward is to report to you in July on happenings from January to June, and then report July through December in January of each year. That being said, we do have the flexibility that if our commissioners and county prefer for us to continue to come quarterly, we will do that. So just letting you know, that's kind of where
So
we're
you
at.
won't be, no written report or anything. It'll just be every 6 months you'll, where does that come from? State?
Yes. Yes. But I think we can do it a number of ways to meet your needs. We can continue to do it exactly like we're doing it, come in person every quarter and submit a report every quarter. We can do a report every quarter and an in-person meeting every 6 months. Really, I think we want to make sure that we are meeting your needs also and keeping up the relationship and the communication.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so is the guidance from DOH, is that the minimum of every 6 months, or,
Correct.
okay,
Yeah,
so at least every 6 months?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so then we
Well, and
can,
it does take you out of the office when you come up here, so, unless we would have some issues come up that we'd need to have them come in.
The only other thing you could do, like if we would like to have a quarterly report, you could have a handwritten one, or a hard copy report would be fine. This is, I like this one that you had now. I like, it's so easy to understand. And I know, Commissioner Gable, there's no pie charts on here or so on, but this is just a nice easy graph to read, and I
Yeah, that's what I
appreciate
talked
it. His
about.
pie charts are easy to read though, too. He does a good job with them.
I would suggest, let's just do the written report every quarter and then every 6 months, unless you have something that you want to talk to us about.
Every 6 months, stop in and give us
Yeah.
some data.
I happen to be
Face-to-face
the
service.
liaison to your department, so if there's anything that ever comes up, be sure and get to me.
Okay.
And I appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you. Well, we will plan on then submitting a written report every quarter and meeting every 6 months unless we need to come to you or if you need anything from us.
Will
We're
do.
happy to
Sounds
help.
good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Melissa.
Thank
Cody,
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Stay warm. All right, let's go on to Veteran Service. Al's here. Good morning, Al.
Morning, Al.
How are you this morning?
Trying to stay warm.
Oh, that's what we all are. If you wear a hat, it helps.
I have to wear a hat in my office, believe it or not.
I was going to say,
Or a
how is
hoodie,
that?
because it gets cold over there.
Oh,
I wonder.
We don't have a new office.
Did you ladies hear that? Al says he doesn't have a new office, but he does.
But that's why it's cold over there. You guys got to be.
Who's
You
controlling
guys got
it?
winter.
Talk to the city about it.
Don't you
When
guys
you get
control
sick,
the
you can go see
thermostat?
them out.
I'll just walk into Peggy's office.
I was gonna say, who controls that thermostat, Al?
January, 75 walk-ins and appointments, down considerably because of the cold weather and blizzards that we had. We had 4 trips with 8 riders for the month of January. Otherwise, we're still keeping busy with claims and headstones and all that kind of stuff.
Headstones. What do you mean by headstones?
Veterans headstone.
Explain that. What?
A veteran may be eligible for a headstone or a grave marker.
Yep. And I don't know if everybody realized that or knew that, but that's, it's not a fancy granite big one either. It's just a.
So explain how they, if somebody's hearing this on YouTube, how do they contact your office?
Yeah, they just contact our office.
Okay.
Once the veteran passes away, the family comes in, and there's like 6 different ones that they can choose from. The 2 most popular is a upright granite that you see in the veteran section, or the bronze plaque that goes on the back, the 2x4,
Okay.
or 1x2, I guess. And then the 3rd most popular is a small niche one, which is 6 inches. So
And those are all provided by the VA.
that's provided by the VA, but you have to pay, you are responsible for mounting it, getting it mounted, paying for that. But then the state does reimburse up to $100 to help offset that cost. And we do all that paperwork through our office.
Good to know.
Nice service.
Yeah, good to know.
Any other questions for Al? Okay, thank you, Al.
So,
Thanks, Al.
Have a good week. Welfare Director. Good morning, Sarah. We have a bunch of her reports in the packet. Her annual report and her bi-monthly or whatever you'd want to call it.
I'm going to start with the November, December monthly reports. Last month I reported on 1 month I'd already reported on, so we're going to do this to catch up.
Does Lee have it available on the?
I don't have it on PowerPoint.
All right,
These are
okay.
on Excel. We actually are using Excel, not PowerPoint on these. This is just all in our Excel spreadsheet. I've not transferred over.
All right, where do you want to start?
I can project the Excel too. I can project it too.
It protects just like this, though.
No, I know. Well, you can,
So
I
that's,
can
when
do
we
it, yeah.
send it, it's like this.
Yeah.
So I can do that. So there, in November, just nothing really significant to, we had a higher number with the housing and homeless. Just a couple highlights to let you know that with the homeless, Salvation Army is providing us with basic care kits for the apartment that we have. Within that kit, we have a blanket, a sheet, a towel, and a hygiene kit. So when an individual comes to our place and that they're going to be put up in that apartment, we're able to send that with them, and that's items in that they can take with them. So we're not having to share sheets or blankets and things like that. We currently have 5 in the office. We have some extra storage space with that office, so we're able to do that, and then they'll replenish them as we need those, and then an individual can take those items with them. One thing that you're going to notice on my report, now we do have a new line, and it's called the ESG client. ESG stands for Emergency Services Grant. We are collaborating with the Beacon Center on this. They have some funds available for that. Our office, we provide the case management. We record that time, and it's considered as an in-kind, which is a match that the Beacon Center can use when they apply for those funds. That's a large bulk of their fund that they use to operate with the domestic violence shelter, in addition to the homeless. So we provide the case management. They, in turn, administer the funds and take care of all the paperwork. So they provide the funds for that. So just our target group are single individuals who are homeless or near homeless. We do give a priority to anybody with any sort of mental illness or with a criminal history. This just provides us with an additional option when we're working case management to provide for that individual. So we currently have those numbers there.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question.
Yes.
So ESG stands for Emergency Services Grant?
Yes, yep.
Okay, and that's, where's the money come from? Is it-
HUD. So
that's HUD,
it comes
okay.
from the federal, and then it's
Okay.
given to the state of South Dakota through the Homeless consortium, and then those funds are distributed locally. ICAP has a BOCA fund. The Beacon Center, they've been encouraged consistently to get that just specifically for homeless and not
Right.
just for the domestic violence.
Right, okay, thank you.
We had, like, for example, it was last Monday, even though it was a holiday, I got a call. I got a couple call of an individual that was homeless that was dropped at the Beacon Center, which was not domestic violence. So then in turn, we were able to work to
Right.
get that individual connected to those services. So you guys do know I am, like, the Beacon, certain places do have my number, my cell phone, and I am on call. So even though it was a holiday, we did take care of that. It was, actually ended up being a pretty intensive case because it was dealing with some severe mental illness. So it spent about 4 hours on that. The individual actually ended up, we did get her down to Avera and is now at Yankton. But will actually be at our place probably today. So we think the release is today. So those are those services provided there.
So some of these individuals then, they may be put into that housing apartment that we have, if that's an avenue that they could also be directed to.
Yeah, so we have that as an option. So if an individual's homeless, we can put them, if they're in that apartment, then we can take a look to see if the emergency services grant is a possibility for them. At this point, actually, I believe the individuals so far that we've used that grant for have been homeless prevention, not the rapid rehousing part. So they've been individuals that are housed that are going to lose their housing. So far to date, we have been able to, we've not used it for those that have been in the apartment. The irony of that, right? You'd think it'd be the opposite, but
Right.
but it is an option that we're always able to look at. What we're finding is a lot of the individuals we're working with have a lot of direct service needs that once we can, and especially with the mental illness, once we can get them stabilized or connected to the care and get that disability going, they're able to get into the housing, which then provides them with the stability. Whereas what happens with the other piece of it that we see is an individual maybe has an incident of primarily a medical incident prevents them from working. So they're in this interim change of they go from I'm working, stable, I'm not working, I'm a single adult, so I'm on the lowest top priority for Watertown housing. So this kind of helps us to be able to get that person through that while they're trying to get that disability and also connect them to all those other services. So far to date, it's been more of a homeless prevention piece that we've been able to use that for versus that homeless piece on that. So any other questions? Very good question.
All right, go ahead.
Now, on your annual report, I had caught the error before I sent it out, but I sent you the sheet with the error. So
I believe we got that.
did you get that change? Okay, did everybody get that? Okay. I threw away the wrong sheet. So this is just your 2018 annual report. I'm going to have you go to the second page. I think it'd be make a little more sense if we start with the people served first. And so that'll have this graph here, type with your line graph. At the top left, what we did, we just took back and went back 2 years to take a look at that. And this just kind of shows you your bar graph shows you kind of how it fluctuates month to month for the people served. There really is not a predictability of what month we're going to have highs and lows type thing. We just haven't really ever seen a consistency necessarily in that. However, what we do see a consistency is the total people served. Don't be fooled by the top right graph that there's big differences. That really, if you look at the actual numbers, there's not a significant number difference of the people served. We are down just a little bit, but it's only 2 from last year. So overall, the people that we serve, the numbers is about the same, but you'll see there'll be a fluctuation in what type of services. For example, medical is down right now, was down this last year. The housing, you can look at the homeless 2 years ago and stuff, that those numbers decreased. I do anticipate as we have this apartment, we'll see those numbers increase. If you just don't have the service to provide, people don't show up. But overall, it's kind of consistent, but it's inconsistent the months and inconsistent the type of services. We're there to provide all that. So on that. So then if we'll just take a look at, or any questions on that before I?
So just on the people served total, there's really not, like you say, there's not much difference on the bar graph though. The axis starts at 372, so it kind of looks like there's a big difference, but really that's only a few people,
Right.
So.
But you just never know. Like 1 month, June might be higher, and 1 month, October, you know, there's just an inconsistency of when. I can't tell you, and I've never figured out a rhyme or reason. Maybe someone's got an algorithmic formula, they can figure that out.
Sarah, and you probably can't answer this, but why such a large discrepancy in the homeless people served between in 2016 we had 55, the next year we had 6,
Yeah.
and then 14.
That's
Any
a really
idea?
good question. Well, we used to have a hotel room with the Salvation Army, similar to the apartment. When we had that hotel room, as you start working that, you start to have more people that just show up. It's spread by word of mouth. People know that there's that possibility. We had a call last week too. Someone said, "Hey, I hear you have this. You know, do I have access to that?" And we always just take a look at everybody. So I do anticipate that we'll see that number increase. There's always a variable factors. There's the economy can be a factor. The funding elsewhere can be factors. If
Weather?
there's funding, yep. And
Okay.
yeah, especially if you notice, the one thing too, like October, an individual will be on that. But one of the things we also started taking a look at with our office is preventative services. One of the things that we've been trying to work hard is contact us before you're homeless. And if we can get that out. And so we worked with other agencies, and you have to really work with those agencies. Those are the agencies, the independent living centers, your Salvation Army, that are going to see those individuals before they get homeless. If you can get them to us before they can get homeless, we can usually do enough interaction to prevent that homeless piece. We're very fortunate in Watertown that we have adequate housing on income-based housing. You know, Sioux Falls, that's not an option. You know, they have a shelter, but that's two reasons why we don't want people to be homeless. We don't have a shelter. So we want to make sure that we can prevent that, because this type of weather and that cold, you know, we have people with good hearts that help out too, but a lot of those individuals are probably on housing too, so they can only have somebody stay with them for a short period of time. So yeah, I'd have to actually pull, but I think that was the year then that they ended the contract with that, the budget and stuff. Just there had been a lot of damage on that. So. Okay, good question. Anything else? Okay. So then the next one, if you go back, I think it's your first page, it's just the medical. We do take the medical out separately, and one of the reasons I do that individually is because medical is typically what we're looking at is somebody that already had an emergency hospital visit. We're just determining, do they qualify under the statute? Does county have to pay for it, or is it something that the individual can apply for charity care? And so those numbers are down, about 83. I would attribute that to the Affordable Care Act. People are able to get insurances through the health market type thing, so we're not seeing as many referrals on that. I do want to point out the medical costs on that. This year, 2018, that cost to that $7,000 that we had, those were all involuntary commitments. So now that doesn't actually come out of my budget. That comes out of a budget that Cindy has. But my office takes a look at those that are sent out by typically Avera outside the hospital. And we take a look to see if they're eligible, if they qualify. We are definitely seeing a constant increase of number of involuntary commitments outside of Cottington County at Avera.
Those are mental health commitments, so
Yes.
that's coming out of the mental health part of the budget, correct?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that comes out of the mental health part of the budget,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah, but I take a look
Okay.
at, look at to see if they're.
Board of Mental Illness budget is where it comes from, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The total savings on that, what we were billed for, that we had on savings by the processing that through my office was about $53,000. So that's why I take a look at those on those. We make sure that it does qualify for involuntary commitment. We also make sure that we're being charged the rate that the state says, not that says that we're allowed to. So that's that significance there. So what you see out of that savings, out of that $258,000 saved, 53 of that thousand of that would be for the involuntary commitments. The rest are just medical. They either didn't qualify or we were able to get the individual other services. The biggest service that we use on that for individuals is if they're disabled, we work with them to get that disability process, and then we follow it to get retroactive Medicaid. That's been our significant savings for medical. So then the last page on there is just our direct care services. Again, not as significant. We do have lower costs than what we had in 2016, but 2017 and 2018 are about the same. Just a fluctuation on where the costs maybe came from. You will see 2018 we had a little bit higher. We've had the increase in the housing costs. We haven't had a homeless apartment. That kind of helps us get by sometimes. utility costs up just a little bit, but if you also see the savings are up a little bit too. And then the burial costs, that actually went down from 2017, but significantly from 2016 on that. So, any questions on the direct care or the medical or anything on the report?
Any questions for Sarah?
It's a good
Thank
report,
you,
Sarah.
Bonnie.
Thank you very much.
Good information here. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks. All right. Next on the agenda is action to approve an application for Homeland Security Grant Funds. Jim? Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Morning, Jim.
Here today to ask that you approve that the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management apply for Homeland Security Grant Funds. We're looking at replacing the repeaters that we have for the Sheriff's Office and for Emergency Management. Repeaters that we have right now are 15 years old, and then as you recall, here a couple years ago, we had problems up at the 14th Avenue Water Tower where the equipment got sandblasted and full of dirt, and we're worried that they're going to crash. So we'd like to apply for grant funds to replace those, and then the current repeaters, we plan on moving them back down here to the courthouse, and then there'd be a backup system for the antennas that we installed here a couple years ago that we left in place. And so then we'd have a backup system, so if something happened to the equipment up there at 14th Avenue, then we'd be able just to unplug that equipment up there, plug these in here, and then we'd have a backup system until those repeaters got repaired.
Make a motion to approve
A
that.
motion by Hatton, second by Gable to just to allow you to go forward with the application.
Department of Legislative Audits, anytime there's grant funds available to any county department, they want the department head to come before this board first
Yep.
to get the approval to apply for the funds. It's just kind of a checks and balance type of thing again, so that you know what the department head is looking for.
Also, the Sheriff's Office, in a second grant application, will be applying for some Homeland Security grant funds to purchase some replacement radios for their vehicles. So there would actually be 3 separate grant requests to Homeland Security.
So
Any more questions?
So it's not matching, is it? Did you say, or it's just
This
a
Homeland Security grant is 100% grant.
So then, and it's an equipment thing is kind of an ideal thing for a grant. 'cause it's
That's
just-
what
it's just
the
a
grant
thing.
is
Yeah,
for, is
yeah.
for equipment.
We've been very fortunate, thanks to Jim, that we have gotten a lot of equipment over the years through that grant program. It's been very, very good. Any
Sounds
other
like a-
questions?
Sounds like a good plan, I guess, if we're kind of concerned about the longevity of those repeaters, and
Right.
it's good to have a backup as well.
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Go ahead, Jim. Let's go on with number 8 then, as long as you're up here. Update on search and rescue vehicle purchase with search and rescue organization funds.
The oldest pickup truck that the search and rescue team has is a 2007. And the search and rescue support organization paid for that truck. So there was no county funds used to purchase that truck. But now they're looking at upgrading and replacing this oldest truck with a new one, that they would pay for the new one, but we would ask the county to surplus the old truck at a later date to be traded in on the new one. So we're just upgrading one vehicle, and it'd be at no expense to the county.
Motion to approve?
Is this
We
just
don't need to make any motions.
there's no action on
Yeah,
this?
there is no action because
We
it's,
just wanted to let you know what the search and rescue support organization was thinking about and wanting to do, and letting you know that what was going on there.
Yeah, we appreciate all you do. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jim.
very much.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thanks
Jim.
very much, have a good day.
All right, let's go to number 9, and this is action to approve plat resolutions. We have 2 of them. They are in your packet. John, are you here by any chance representing?
no,
No. Yeah, okay.
Luke said he would be gone this week. He doesn't think there's anything concerning on these. He did say if you're comfortable enough, you could act on these today, or you can wait till he gets back on the 12th.
We did work on these at our planning and zoning meeting last week.
Yes.
And we did recommend them to the Board of Commissioners and the unanimous board. The first one is a plat of Viola Ingalls Edition in the southeast quarter of Section 18, Township 117 North, Range 53 west of the 5th PM, Cottington County, South Dakota Lake Township.
I'd make a motion to approve that. That was just a homestead exemption that they parceled off a piece, which we've done many times in the past. So
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Hanton, a second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? And that's right, homestead exemption. Any other discussion? Any other
This
comments?
is, so we're on the Viola one, correct?
Yeah,
That's
Viola.
the first one, that's the first one in the packet.
Yeah.
So,
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. The second one was a little bit of an unusual one for us. In fact, I think it was the first time for all of us, including Luke out there, that we had a request for a cemetery. And this is a plat of Wishart Cemetery Edition in Government Lot 4, Section 19, Township 118 North, Range 54 west of the 5th PM, Cottington County, South Dakota Fuller Township. And their request was to plat a parcel, thank you, a parcel of land for a family cemetery. We again discussed this thoroughly and looked at all the conditions that they needed to meet, and they did. And it was recommended with a unanimous vote to forward it to the commission.
And I'll make a motion that we
We have
approve
a
this
motion by
plat as well.
Hanton,
a second.
second by Gable. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you. Number 10, action to approve a notice to bidders for a courthouse fire alarm system. That thing just won't disappear, will it?
No,
All right, Lee?
I think that was in the, it was in the.
It's in your packet,
it's in
yeah.
the packet. Yeah, so this is a motion to take care of the fire alarm system. So as you know, we budgeted for it. We think this is going to be somewhere around we budgeted for. We tried this last year. It came in a lot higher because we hadn't sorted out the number of sprinklers that were going to be in the courthouse, but we've since sorted that out. So we did get some preliminary quotes, but it looks like it's pretty close to the overall 50,000 threshold that we should advertise for bids. So the text of this is almost identical to the RFP we did last year, just the dates, and I still will confirm the dates with the fire marshal and Milo just to make sure that those dates work as far as the deadline and when the bids would be due and when we'd open the bids. But other than that, so this is for the alarms, not the sprinklers. And then the other textual change in this is noting the fact that that we have the sprinkler system done more or less in the first two floors of the courthouse, and then, or rather, the basement and the ground floor, and then that we intend, and we've officially informed the fire marshal that we intend to sprinkle the rest of the courthouse. So that has an impact on the cost of this project. So, and they need to work in tandem. The alarms and the sprinklers need to work in tandem. So the motion is to go ahead and advertise for bids according to this notice to bidders.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Waterman, any discussion?
So-
I know Cindy was looking at the
I just want to
calendar here.
make sure that, per the dates that you have here, I have time to get the notices
Well,
in.
yeah, let's sort out. Yeah, so we'll sort out.
You
the
can't go
exact-
any sooner than this.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I think it could be another week. So right now, we have trying to get the bids in by the end of February, but stay tuned for an exact date. Like the one we just.
Well,
approved.
I'll need to know that before I publish.
Oh, I know.
Okay,
I
all
know,
right,
So.
all right.
Do we need to, in the motion, change that date?
I would consider this a draft. I should have written draft across it. But we can add that to the motion, just say, well, with the dates confirmed by the fire marshal and the building supervisor, or the maintenance supervisor.
All right, you want to include that in the motion?
Yeah, let's include that.
Is that all right, Commissioner Waterman? All right.
And then on the discussion, more discussion, Mr. Chairman. So what we'll do is, when we publish this, we'll put this online, but also, since it's an ad for bid, there's some requirements about it going into papers and things that we'll make sure we do. So,
I think last time we had 2 proposals, didn't we?
yep.
Yeah. I call them proposals, they weren't really.
Yeah, they're technically, those are bids, but yeah.
All right, any more discussion? Any other discussion? You think the dollars are going to be about the same?
No, I think it's going to be less.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. How about change orders for the remodel project? Lee,
No.
I know there was a couple coming. Are they,
No change orders. The big one I'm expecting is, like I said, on the security walls. We're talking about extending that wall through the north vestibule, but that's basically what we're waiting on. They're working the price up on that one. So they're starting to deliver some components of the security checkpoint, as you might have seen. So.
and
anyway,
where are we on the project?
Yeah, good question. So the courtroom part, the walkthrough. So that's where that's kind of the official, kind of almost the handoff of the space. That's scheduled for Thursday this week. So since I may be in Pier then, so Commissioner Manduzin as the other commissioner that's on the CCJAC will
What
be
time
there.
is that?
That's at 11 o'clock. So anybody can go. I mean, among the commissioners. The main thing is that the main thing that happens at that is the architect and the contractor go through the space and they find it. The things that still need to be done, and there's always going to be something. So there's always, just like with the clerk of court's office. So there's still, some fairly, you want to start using the space, but you still got to make sure you take care of some stuff. And so the interest of the contractor likes to see that get done because the warranty period, they want to get that warranty period, the 1-year warranty period started. On the other hand, the architect helps us hold them responsible to make sure that, they get all the details taken care of. So. The audio-visual stuff is probably the big thing that's being installed in the courtroom this week. So, anyway.
All right. Any questions for Lee from any of the other commissioners? I did stop down there this morning. They're hoping the painters will get out of there this week, or early this week. And I know last week the big deal was the audio-visual and the technology, but that's all come along quite a bit.
Yeah, right now there's painters and electricians down there basically doing that. So, can I make one comment on the security point, if I may, Mr. Chairman? Just so people understand what's going on. So we're talking about a centralized security checkpoint for the courthouse. That's important for the court security. So what people may not realize unless you go to the courtroom is that typically the judge is going to ask for deputies to come and use metal detecting wands for each courtroom as people go in. Now we're going to have 3 courtrooms, so that you could potentially have 3 deputies doing that. Well, that's kind of a lot of manpower to be used, but typically that's what judges want. So the first thing that a centralized security checkpoint is going to do is allow us to save some money by having just one person do that most of the time. Occasionally you'll probably have to augment with another person. And then, so that's going to centralize that for the 3 courtrooms. It does mean that people are going to, go through security to come to the courthouse. The other part of it is, the fact that the judges ask for that, it highlights the fact that there is a need there, and it's better to be proactive about this than reactive. So it's better to be proactive before something might happen, and rather to react to it if something does happen. And the remodel project just presented an opportunity to take care of this thing, and so that's basically, in case people are wondering, I know there's been talk about, say, security at the Capitol and stuff like that. There always is with
There's been an ad on the TV lately, and it's in reference to a Minnehaha County fireman in one of the surrounding areas that also serves as a deputy and does a security check at the Minnehaha County Court. And it shows the people coming up, and he uses the wand on them, and this would be very similar to what we're going to have.
Well, we're planning to do it. It's an X-ray bag pass and a metal detector. So now we've
We won't want them anymore.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, if I suppose we have to, there are metal pan joists, so in the courthouse.
But if they alert going through the metal detector, we'll still want them.
Yeah, or whatever the procedure is, yeah, so, yeah.
And this will only be done on court days, but unfortunately, that's
Yeah, I
most
think
every
we
day
need to,
anyways.
we need to work that out with the sheriff. I mean, he's the one who's responsible for the security of the courthouse, so I don't really want to speak for him on that one. But I think that, obviously, at least that much, so,
Maybe.
yeah.
It's gonna take more manpower, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
All
no,
right.
this will alleviate the extra, otherwise we'd probably have to hire more people to
Yeah.
secure those courtrooms.
All right, let's go to number 12 then, action to approve claims for payment.
No claims today and no automatic budget supplements.
Oh, those are good to hear. Action to approve personnel changes, we do have 2 or 3 of those though.
3 of those. The first one is Becky Goins. She is the Extension Office Coordinator. She's due an anniversary step increase to step 13, $21.78 an hour. Randy Falvey is Maintenance 2 at the Highway Department, due an anniversary step increase to step 4, $19.98 an hour. And Lonnie Vogelsang is Maintenance 2 at the Highway Department. He is also to go to step 4, $19.88 per hour. You'll notice those last 2 gentlemen are at the same step, but one employee does receive the incentive, the education incentive.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Van Duzen,
Second.
second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. I did not receive any travel requests.
Nope.
And is there any old business that we need to touch on? Any mature business?
Just an update, Mr. Chairman, a couple updates. One is the JDAI. I mentioned last week, I think, that there are going to be some grant funds available to, the aim of which is to help the counties that are participating in the JDAI. So JDAI, again, is Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, to help them hire a coordinator for the JDAI program. And so that could be somebody that coordinates the different alternative programs or the deflection, not the deflection, but the, what's the word? Well, so like say, programs like Teen Court, we're having a meeting today, as a matter of fact, at the Boys and Girls Club to talk about what we might do, because we're expecting the state to say, okay, this is the kind of proposals that we're looking for this grant. So something to think about. So the idea of the grant is that it would cover 2 years of a coordinator. So the question is, do we need a full FTE, because we don't have that many juveniles in the justice system. On the other hand, if it's a preventative thing and if there's other things that person can do. And then we also have to keep in mind that the sustainability aspect after the grant is gone. So anyway, that discussion's going on.
Do other communities have that need that we could share, like do something like that with other communities?
Well, I mean, it'd probably be the same catchment area, that would use our jail. But it's the tricky thing is that you want to have alternatives. I mean, now when a juvenile's arrested, you do a risk assessment instrument, and so it's a very high threshold before you incarcerate a juvenile. And so usually the risk assessment instrument is an objective reading, like what are the prior offenses, what's the nature of the offense that they have. If it involves a firearm, they go to jail. If it's, say, something like a misdemeanor drug offense, then it might be something a bit different, or fighting or something like that. Then the ideal is just to send them home, or sometimes if it's kind of in between that, sending them home or an incarceration, then it says alternative. Well, the community doesn't have many alternatives. So the trick is to find something that will handle kind of an on-call thing. So because we just don't have that many juveniles, but you want to have something in place to do it, but do you want to spend that much money if it's just a few people a year kind of thing? So it's kind of that conundrum that we're working on. And so this grant could help us figure that out. And I know that at least with Teen Court, the Boys and Girls Club have been very helpful with that program, which is not really an alternative program, but it does help in the bigger picture of say an occurrence of this. It does help a juvenile from getting a criminal record when they've just made kind of a juvenile mistake is kind of the idea. So.
And that's why I was kind of wondering, if several communities would go together, that, you know, if we don't have that need all the time, maybe others, it could be a floater
Yeah.
sort of person.
I think a lot of, I think that's potential, that's a good idea, actually. I think that's a potential. And I think a lot of the assets, you know, the alternative assets might end up being here in
Yeah.
Watertown anyway, so.
But at
we could-
least that
yeah.
person could be busy probably in other places.
Yeah, that's, we're having a meeting about that today, this afternoon, just a kind of an informal thing to talk about what we might do with the grant. So the UJS coordinator, Annie Broken Leg, Judge Means, and the Boys and Girls Club, so. And so this is just kind of an informal discussion right now.
Okay, thank you. One thing I noted this week in the paper, probably under old business, is we've talked to many, many times about being able to identify and help the mentally those people that are suffering some mental illness, whatever. Carrie Johnston had an article in the paper this week that was very, very informative. It had a lot of good information in it, and I don't know if any of the other commissioners had a chance to read it, but
Didn't.
I would suggest that the people, well, I guess we have the Watertown Public Opinion sitting right here. This is a feather in their hat for getting that published or getting that in the paper. It's good information that there are a lot of community efforts being working together to try to solve some of these issues that we have in that area.
But
It's just not a,
Essentially, it comes down to the individual and if they want to do it.
that's the way it is. If you want help, it's probably out there, but you have to realize that you need it and want it. All right, how about new business? Any new business? Anything new? We've got a couple of bills getting close to being entered into committee hearings here this week.
Yeah, we got one, Mr. Chairman, you got one, SB 103 is the one on the, that's tomorrow in Senate, local government, and that one has to do with providing more funds to the BIG program, so the Bridge Improvement Grant Program. And that one comes, I think it comes out of Brown County. And then the other one, I think, the bill, SB 65, that's the one about the half-cent sales tax, being able to ask voters for a half-cent sales tax if to build a jail or a courthouse or, you know, the county necessary buildings. That one, I think it's probably going to be scheduled on Friday, but I have not seen it be. It's with the same committee, Senate Local Government, so.
I thought it was scheduled on Wednesday, but did it get
No,
changed to Friday?
it was scheduled originally last week,
Last
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
But then it got, so both of those bills were scheduled last week,
Yeah.
Wednesday, then they changed that. So as far as I know, SB 65 hasn't been scheduled yet, but I'll check while you guys are talking.
Well, be sure, keep us in the loop, Lee, and so we can contact our legislators or the legislators, and especially the committee people, and certainly the chair of that committee. We certainly want to make certain that we're supporting that. All right, let's go on then to the open. Does anybody have anything for the open? How about the social calendar, Brenda? I know we have farm show today, right?
Yes, farm show all week. I'll be working Wednesday and Thursday out there, being in the lunch counter. Other than that,
GOP tomorrow.
yeah.
I'll be out there probably, I was out there all day Friday, but I'll be out there probably every day, but Thursday, or Friday and Saturday this week. Aren't we invited out there today? At what time?
10:30.
At what?
10:30.
And we're supposed to meet where?
Chamber booth. Chamber booth.
Chamber booth. And you all
I
know where
forwarded
that's at?
that email on.
Yeah, I saw that,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, at 10:30.
And then just a reminder on the walkthrough is in the courtroom. Commissioner Van Duzen's going to handle that on
Yep.
Thursday at 11.
Yeah. I'll be working at the farm show, so I won't be able to.
I think
be
that,
there.
Brenda, will you still be in here this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that we are invited for lunch then after our walkthrough at the farm show. I don't know. I guess I'll go out to the walkthrough, but I've been walking through it for 40 years, so I'll walk through it again. That's good though that they have invited us. I have no requests for executive
Make
session.
a motion to
So I
adjourn.
have a motion by Hatton to adjourn, a second by Gable. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you and stay warm. Last week was a bugger. If it's gonna break, it broke. If you're gonna freeze it froze up, you get froze up. You're just tearing that off. Well, January is shot.